car's interior, clean your floor mats, wipe your dashboard, protect your underbody, whiten your white walls, towel dry your exterior, wipe your windows, your entire car will look spectacular. You'd be surprised at the difference a really good car wash can make. WashPoint Auto Wash, your complete auto wash. 2525 Ingersoll, 8727 University, and 3333 Merle Hay Road.
Snow will be heavy at times this evening with temperatures in the upper...
Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters, and this is 2020.
From ABC News, around the world and into your home, the stories that touch your life. With Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters. This is 2020. Tonight, rewriting history. Proof that months before Pearl Harbor, the U.S. was planning to bomb Japan. It's all here in a secret plan.
This is important stuff.
Secretary of the Navy?
Yeah.
Secretary of the Army?
Absolutely.
Approved in Washington and to be launched from China. Now the truth is told.
You can't pretend that we didn't know what the bombers were for.
Stone Phillips on what might have been. Instead, we were...
Flash, Washington. The White House announces
to the
Japanese
punch.
attack on Pearl Harbor. Stay tuned to WOI for further development.
Plus, if someone else is smoking, are you slowly dying? The battle over secondhand smoke.
I am being violated against my will.
Cigarette makers are saying it's a phony charge.
And you would never distort the data out of greed.
I certainly would not.
John Stossel examines the evidence. Is there danger from smoke in your face? And does he look like a computer nerd? So what? Thanks to computers, he's the youngest self-made billionaire in history. 36 and single, Bill Gates has all the toys. The boat, the Porsche, and he's building a mansion.
Do you ever worry that women might be dating you for your money instead of your mind, or?
Well, I like to go out with smart women, and so they're smart enough to know they're not going to get my money.
Bob Brown with the second richest man in America. Someone fascinating. Billionaire Bill. Those stories tonight, November 22nd, 1991.
It's a Pearl Harbor anniversary story you probably won't see anywhere else. The intriguing possibility that in launching a sneak attack, Japan did to us what we might well have done to them. Tonight you'll hear the details of a secret plan approved at the highest levels of the U.S. government.
With the approach of the 50th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, America has been getting a refresher course on the attack. We're reminded that in the fall of 1941, relations between the U.S. and Japan had steadily deteriorated. But untold is that the United States itself was plotting a secret effort against the Japanese. And now, as Stone Phillips shows us, the old story has a new chapter.
It was Sunday afternoon in New York, and many Americans were cozied up to the radio, listening to an exciting football game.
He's up to the 25, and now he's hit and hit hard about the 27-yard line. Bruiser Kennard made the tackle. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this important bulletin from the United Press. Flash, Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
It was news that stunned the nation.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Now, when most Americans think of Pearl Harbor, they remember how badly the U.S. was blindsided by Japan's naked and unprovoked aggression. How we were literally caught dead in the water, virtual sitting ducks. But what most Americans don't know, and what President Roosevelt never disclosed, is that America had its own secret plan to bomb Japan first. This plan, signed and approved by FDR himself on July 23, 1941, nearly 5 months before Pearl Harbor.
I certainly didn't know that there were plans for strategic bombing of Japan before Pearl Harbor.
Are historians generally familiar or aware
I don't
of
think
this?
so. I've read, I've looked in some of the standard histories of this period, and I have not found any reference to this at all. So I think this is new.
This eye-opening document was actually declassified around 1970, but incredibly, it remained buried here at the National Archives in Washington, D.C. for decades. The plans are laid out in black and white, the planes that were to be used, their targets, and it proves that the official story of America's entry into World War II was by no means the whole story, and that from someone who was there. No one knew about the bombing plans.
That was secret. All the supplies were secret. I mean, what we were sending was not a matter of public knowledge.
Our story begins with a romantic chapter out of military lore, well known to the American public. It is the story of the Flying Tigers and their famous shark-tooth P-40s. Also known as the American Volunteer Group, or AVG, they were a small group of daring U.S. flyers, led by this fighter ace named Claire Chennault. They were known as mercenaries, hired by China before Pearl Harbor to help fight off the brutal Japanese invaders.
Look, Captain Jim, looky, wham, wham!
Termites.
Flying Tiger Charlie Mott.
The Japanese were the bad guys, no question about it.
And your mission was to take them on?
Yes, yes.
Their primary objective was to protect China's only lifeline, this winding supply route known as the Burma Road.
Certainly, order of priority was one, seize control of the air over China. Keep China in the war.
Skip Adair's job was to find the volunteer pilots. When you were recruiting men for the American Volunteer Group that summer, 1941, what was the strategic goal of the operation?
Well, to kill as many damn Japanese as we could. That's simple.
But in reality, the pilots Adair recruited were not mercenaries at all. While they flew under the Chinese flag, their operation was planned and paid for by the U.S. government. The U.S. government knew about this, helped develop this plan.
And not only knew about it, but they were 100% behind it. Where do you think the $50 million came from? The United States. It was secret. Nobody was supposed to talk about it. We did a damn good job of keeping it secret.
And the need for secrecy wasn't just for military reasons. Sending not just equipment, but soldiers to China would have been a violation of U.S. neutrality laws. Flying Tiger Ed Rector.
It was against the U.S. law to fight under another flag for another country.
But what most Americans will be startled to hear, and what is the subject of this report, is that the United States, long before Pearl Harbor, had secret plans for a second American volunteer group with a much more daring mission. Flying Tiger Dick Rossi.
There was a second group, which would be a bomber group, and the third group would be another fighter group.
So it was all in the works.
Yes.
At least that was what you were being told.
Yes.
We knew that there's going to be a bomber group formed. In fact, Chennault told me that I would probably get the bomber group.
A secret bomber group flying against Japan before Pearl Harbor? Sounds inconceivable. But Claire Chennault, the leader of the Flying Tigers, laid out his offensive strategy for Japan early on. Quote, if the men and equipment were of good quality, such a force could cripple the Japanese war effort. A small number of long-range bombers carrying incendiary bombs could quickly reduce Japan's paper and matchwood cities to heaps of smoking ashes. Now, those were Chennault's words. The question is whether his plan was backed up by the White House. That's the crucial question we wanted someone to answer. But after half a century, we thought that might be impossible. Well, surprisingly, there is one key figure from FDR's White House who is still around to answer our questions. His name is Lachlan Curry. In 1941, he was one of the president's closest advisors, Roosevelt's personal envoy to China, and Claire Chennault's biggest supporter in the White House. Today, Curry lives in South America. He is 89 years old, and his voice is frail. But he did agree to help us understand those dramatic days preceding Pearl Harbor. Claire Chennault wanted to bomb Japan, didn't he?
Yes, very much so.
You were an enthusiastic supporter of Chennault's plan.
Oh, yes. And I helped in every way I could, yes.
To push the plan through, to see that it was executed.
The whole project, yes.
This was the secret plan, as presented to President Roosevelt, called JB 355, JB standing for Joint Board, which is the equivalent of today's Joint Chiefs of Staff. Discreetly labeled Aircraft Requirements of the Chinese Government, it lists among the strategical objectives destruction of Japanese factories in order to cripple production of munitions and essential articles for maintenance of economic structure in Japan. The distances from Chinese air bases to target cities in Japan are clearly mapped out. Nagasaki, 730 miles from Chuchao. Osaka, 1,060 miles from Manchao. Tokyo, 1,780 miles from Hangzhou. Was it workable? Were planes available that could do the job? An entry written by renowned General Hap Arnold says, the Lockheed Hudsons have ample range to perform missions against targets in Japan. Advanced bases are available in eastern China. It is 1,300 miles from these advanced bases to industrial Japan. The plan was signed off by the Secretary of War, the Secretary of the Navy, and approved by FDR. The date, July 23, 1941, almost 5 months before Pearl Harbor. When we showed Joint Board Plan 355 to Lachlan Curry after 50 years, he said some parts seemed familiar while other parts did not. But it's clear from the documents that JB 355 actually went to FDR at the request of Curry himself. Curry said his role was strictly procurement, not military strategy. You worked to make sure the bombers were in the pipeline, to see to it that this happened.
That was my job, yes.
And the pilots?
And the pilots, yes.
On July 22nd, 1941, you sent a secret cable to Chenault. I am very happy to be able to report that today, the President directed that 66 bombers be made available to China this year, with 24 to be delivered immediately. Why would you be procuring bombers?
Well, naturally, the purpose of bombers is to bomb. We can't pretend that we didn't know what the bombers were for.
And according to this plan, they were going to be manned by Americans.
Volunteer Americans were paid. They were mercenaries.
But the White House was very much in favor of it. So this had the blessing of the U.S. government.
It had the blessing of it.
To find out how a prominent historian would react to Joint Board Plan 355, we brought a copy to Yale University and showed it to U.S. foreign policy professor Gaddis Smith. As an historian, what's your reaction to this?
It was top level. I mean, this isn't just some obscure major fantasizing down in the bowels of the War Department somewhere. I mean, this is important stuff.
Secretary of the Navy?
Yeah.
Secretary of the Army?
Absolutely. And high admirals, Thomas Hart involved in it. Admiral Kelly Turner, who was a key figure in naval intelligence. His handwriting is all over this.
But Smith said the document raises some critical questions that no one seemed to be addressing in those months before Pearl Harbor. Like how our Lockheed Hudson bombers, the only ones available for the China operation, would have done against the Japanese Zero, a state-of-the-art fighter plane.
They would have just decimated, I think, the Lockheeds, because the Lockheeds would have gone beyond the range of their own fighter patrols. Now, what do you do when they get shot down over Japan? That would have been an interesting question. They weren't mercenaries. This is an American operation.
In the end, for the Americans, it was a case of too little, too late. There were constant delays, and by the time the bomber group was on its way, the Japanese fleet was already heading for Pearl Harbor. History intervened. Historians have speculated for decades about whether FDR was deliberately trying to bait and maneuver the Japanese into striking first, as a way to force America into a war he believed was inevitable, but much of the country wanted to avoid. JB 355 may finally shed new light on that crucial moment that changed history. Do you think FDR was trying to provoke the Japanese?
I have a firm conviction that he was.
Richter came to that conclusion when a friend of his, an American ambassador named Bill Bullitt, told him a chilling story about a meeting he had with FDR in the late fall of 1941, just before Bullitt left on a trip to Indochina.
These words were from Bullitt's own lips. He said, the president asked me, by the way, Bill, how are you going out to India or China? And he said, well, I'd planned to take Pan Am across the Pacific Mr. President, and he said, President Roosevelt looked at me and said, Bill, if I were you, I'd go the other way, through the Middle East. I think there's going to be a war out there, and you just might not make it. How true he was.
Amazing. Well, Stoner, it raises the question of what did FDR know that the country didn't know, and when did he know it?
And when did he know it? It looks as if he knew we would be going to war long before Pearl Harbor. Barbara, on July 25th, 1941, 5 months before Pearl Harbor, we know that FDR signed a crippling oil embargo against the Japanese. We now know that just 2 days before that is when he signed this secret volunteer bombing operation against the Japanese. He knew war was inevitable, and he was willing to go on the offensive.
Well, does this mean that the Japanese then bombed us at Pearl Harbor, you know, getting us before we got them? They knew about this?
Well, they clearly knew about the American Volunteer Group, at least the first phase of it. There were Japanese surveillance flights that had spotted the pilots in China. There were Japanese radio broadcasts that talked about it. Did they know about the bombing operation? We don't know. But Pearl Harbor was probably not a tit for tat for this operation, because that operation had been in the planning for months as well.
And here it is 50 years later, and we are still learning new things about that event. Thank you, Stone. Hugh?
Well, later, John Stossel takes on the tobacco industry. Should smoking in public be banned? Can secondhand smoke kill you? But first, how a college dropout became the second richest man in America. He's computer wizard Bill Gates. Critics call him ruthless, but nearly everyone agrees he's a genius. How does he work? How does he play? Bob Brown shows us right after this.
It's Sears' 72-hour fine jewelry sale. 30 to 70% below comparable values elsewhere on things that glitter, glisten, sparkle, shine, and tick. Sears' 72-hour fine jewelry sale. It's over Sunday, so get over to Sears fast.
The Venice Simplon Orient Express, naturally the most luxurious train in the world, serves the richest coffee in the world.
Oh, c'est impossible! Pas de café de Colombie! Vite, vite, retournez à Paris!
100% Colombian coffee, hand-picked by Juan Valdez.
For months, you've heard about a breakthrough in long-distance savings. And now, here's an improvement. An MCI Friends and Family card to call anyone when you travel. And get the 20% extra savings calling MCI customers you name or your own home. Call MCI. The card is free when you join Friends and Family.
I'm glad I called you, too.
It makes every other card, if not too heavy, too expensive to carry.
The American celebration.
Sears announces our biggest pre-Thanksgiving sale ever. Save 25 to 30% on all women's classic collection separates, all kids' outerwear, fleece sets, and sweaters, and save 10 to 50% on every item in the men's store. Thursday through Saturday at Sears.
Sunday.
You put out the contract!
Lover, gangster, fugitive from justice. The mob wants him dead.
I don't trust you.
The feds want him alive, and there's nowhere to hide.
I got no place to go.
He's run out of friends.
That's the gun.
No, he's run out of time.
What are you trying to pull?
Tony Danza, dead and alive, Sunday.
Wednesday.
I find you very attractive, Charlie.
An ex-client forms a dangerous new attachment.
I need to make you see how much I want you.
Tom Shales calls it powerful and provocative.
If I did anything to lead you on.
Civil Wars, Wednesday.
If you're a computer nerd, and we use the term affectionately, you surely know who Bill Gates is. If you don't, we offer some comparisons. What oil did for John D. Rockefeller, what automobiles did for Henry Ford, computer software has done for Bill Gates. That is, made him one of the richest men of his time. Forbes magazine says that billionaire Bill is the second wealthiest man in all of America, and he's only 36. No wonder then, though Bill Gates is not a household name, in certain circles he's treated like a superstar.
He has sold more discs than Elvis, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Sinatra combined. He is far wealthier than any of them and in constant demand for appearances. The man behind those statistics is 36-year-old Bill Gates, the youngest self-made billionaire in history. The chairman of a corporation called Microsoft, which is becoming as pervasive as pop culture. It has helped change the way Americans work, supplying software programs that tell computers how to operate, earning revenues last year of $1.8 billion. Gates, through his stock, is now said to be worth around $4.5 billion. According to Fortune magazine, his is one of the 30 largest fortunes in the world. Not bad for someone who only a few years ago was often described in the media as a computer nerd.
If a nerd is somebody who's inarticulate, then it might not be accurate. I mean, I go around and give speeches, and I sell software. If nerdy means that I can take a book about, physics and sit in a room for 4 hours and just sit there laughing and having a fun time reading it, yeah, in that sense, I'm extreme.
So if your image of a billionaire is still based on the financial manipulators of the 80s, Bill Gates is as unlikely as they come. He owns a speedboat instead of a yacht. He built his business on products instead of junk bonds. His current Seattle home is a modest one, with a small, cluttered den as a work area. Even his parties have an air of business about them. This one in his backyard was for Microsoft interns, smart young people that the company recruits intensively. However, one of the hot topics of conversation here wasn't the current state of the computer industry, but Bill Gates' penchant for sports cars.
Acceleration.
Evidence that he can find a few things to do with his money.
What's the horsepower?
He purchased a $300,000 Porsche 959 that's now held up at customs because the model was too expensive to crash test.
Actually, that's what I was dying to ask you guys. Have you gotten your Porsche out of Oakland yet?
My insurance company likes to go down and take a photograph to make sure it's still there every 6 months. 959 will do the national speed limit in first gear. So the other gear... I'm fairly intense, fairly demanding as far as people being smart and really trying to push the edge of what can be done. I like puzzles. I like to think about things. I'm very optimistic that if you're clever enough, you can change the world.
Is that what drives you, the idea that what you do can change the world in some way?
I think the key driving factor is working with smart people and trying to solve very tough problems.
Bill Gates has been working out those puzzles in his mind for as long as anyone can remember. His mother recalls a response she often heard when she went to look for him.
He would like to think. We'd lose him sometime for hours at a time. And when I would ask, "What are you doing?" he'd say, "I'm thinking, Mother."
Gates comes from a prominent and well-to-do Seattle family. His mother is a business executive, his father an attorney. They sent him to learn on this secluded campus at a private school called Lakeside. At the time, in the late 60s, there were no personal computers of the type kids now learn about, but there was a computer terminal in the school connected to a large corporate computer in Seattle. That's where Gates and his friends first learned the ins and outs of how to send commands to computers that made them work. Gates became legendary for doing something the adults couldn't master, writing a computer program that the school used to schedule its classes.
And Bill came in and helped them out and figured out how to use the computer to do the scheduling. Well, no staff member understood what he was doing, and he did a brilliant job of setting a pattern of doing course scheduling by computer.
And he programmed in a few classroom arrangements to his own advantage.
But there were a shortage of girls in this high school, and so in my history class there were myself and two other guys, and then 13 girls, which statistically would never happen. Other than that, we were very normal.
Even as an adolescent, Gates could sense important changes coming. Then, most people knew and visualized computers as those huge machines that filled entire rooms. Gates foresaw the day when computers would be small enough to fit on a desktop, and the opportunities would be immense. So, at the age of 20, Gates dropped out of Harvard to manage, with his friend Paul Allen, the Microsoft Corporation, the first corporation dedicated solely to writing the software that would run that coming wave of personal computers.
A lot of these apps use DPMI 0.9. They actually don't use WinMem32.
Gates not only proved his abilities as a computer programmer, but unlike many of the other early entrepreneurs with whom he competed, Gates quickly proved he was also adept at covering angles like royalties and marketing.
Well, we'd make mass money, so they'll never do it that way.
Steve Ballmer is Senior Vice President of Microsoft.
When you work with Bill, you can see that in almost any meeting you're in or anything you're discussing, Bill instantly puts together a profile of all of the cases. What about this? 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 He almost builds this checklist of everything that can possibly happen in his head in a very structured way, and then he runs through it.
Protect mode file system, the super advanced FAT file system, the super advanced cache.
Because Gates got in at the beginning, Microsoft set and published many standard software rules that must now be used by smaller companies that want to write their own software. Some complain that that means they are both relying on and competing with Microsoft, a tough position. Esther Dyson is one of the industry's best-known analysts.
They are a fierce competitor. From Bill on down, that's the way they operate. And so they do stuff your mother wouldn't like, but that your lawyer would probably say is okay.
Microsoft is the monopoly in operating systems.
Bob Metcalf, a pioneer in methods to link personal computers together, claims the company uses its size and power to usurp ideas from smaller companies that can't compete with Microsoft's marketing influence.
The company has got so much momentum, and its people are so unrestrained in their behavior, and they are so opportunistic that in their partnership with Microsoft, after you've revealed all your secrets and shared all your technology, the likelihood that the company will turn on you and steal your customers or your technology or your customers is quite high, and it's a very dangerous business.
You know, what's influence mean here? This is a world of products. We come out with a product. If it's a good product, it sells well. If it's a bad product, it doesn't sell well. The rules are published for everyone, but we don't have some influence. Everybody's independently building their own thing.
Even use the IBM But Microsoft even angered the company that had been its most valuable partner, IBM, which in 1980 chose Microsoft to supply the operating software for IBM's first personal computers. In the mid-'80s, IBM wanted to develop new software for its next generation of desktop computers. But Microsoft changed its mind and shifted its priorities away from its software partnership with IBM to promoting and developing the system you see on this screen, Windows, which makes the computer much easier to operate because you can choose commands from on-screen graphics and run and link together several programs at once. It was the right marketing decision for Gates. Windows has made millions. But IBM felt Microsoft had gone back on a promise, and that led to one of the strangest corporate mixed marriages in history. IBM went to IBM's arch rival, Apple, and they made a deal to work together in the future. Both refused to talk with us, but there's little doubt why they did it.
They have a case of Microsoft that needs to be cured. They're too dependent on Microsoft, and they need independence. They just want to get it out of their way because it's a problem for them. It's not nice to fool with Mother Nature, and Microsoft has mucked around with IBM now, and they shouldn't have done that.
You know, we're not going to abandon Windows and the popularity that's had just because it's IBM. It's scary to have them attacking Windows, and it's a new thing. But it doesn't justify us continuing to invest in a losing strategy.
In addition, the Federal Trade Commission is investigating Microsoft's tactics in dominating the industry, placing Gates and his company in a position of taking almost constant heat for its growing success.
Newsweek magazine, in a recent article, they headlined it, "The Whiz Kid They Love to Hate." Playboy, in its September issue, calls you a predatory, capitalistic brainiac. Any of those descriptions make sense to you?
There's always elements of truth in these extreme characterizations.
Are you predatory?
No. No, I mean, we're not like an alligator. We don't go around and eat things. We come out with these little boxes, these nice little software packages, and you stick them in your computer, and you either have fun using it, and it helps you get things done, or not. That's all Microsoft is.
And if Gates has his way, those little packages will soon be as much a part of your home life as they are of your business. For instance, a dictionary that pronounces its words for you.
Immaculate.
An encyclopedia that animates its articles.
New moon occurs close to the sun. The sun's light is partially obscured.
And in the more distant future, even a disc that displays the world's great art on computer screens that you'll be able to hang on your walls. That's what Gates himself is installing in a new home he's building in the Seattle area.
It's almost like having a picture frame where you can call up any picture that you want. So I could just say, give me French sculpture, and then every minute or so a new picture would come up, or I could say, give me anything of interest.
Some are calling it his San Simeon, and it will include plenty of extra bedrooms.
And those bedrooms may be filled with children someday, or at least you're building enough in case you have children in.
Sounds like a way I could use them, yes. They're there. They will be there.
Would you like to have children?
Yes, I think that's one of the great things. I haven't had any time for it yet, but I think I will get around to it.
Do you ever worry that women might be dating you for your money instead of your mind, or?
Well, I like to go out with smart women, and so they're smart enough to know they're not going to get my money.
As successful as he has become, Gates has never taken his sights off the future. He is investing now in biotechnology, and he's buying the computer software rights to art and reference works.
The next frontier. Microsoft.
Even his critics can't help but admire his business judgment and give a few extra points to any billionaire chief executive officer who would go make a major appearance dressed as Mr. Spock. It's a costume that fits Bill Gates well, as the one on whom the whole crew depends when the enterprise is in need of logic.
To me, it's more the fun of doing the thing. I don't have some ultimate point I'm trying to make. It's just fun to get a good, smart group of people together and write great software products.
But you never wake up in the morning and think, geez, I can go anywhere I want, do anything I want.
Sure, and I go to work every day.
You know, it's amazing to me that he can be both a computer genius and an entrepreneurial talent. That often doesn't reside in the same head.
Really rare qualities. It would be as if the world's chess champion could somehow also be the world's greatest banker. Those two things just don't go together.
Very unusual.
And he rarely does television appearances, but he handled himself very well on it, I thought.
Yeah, he did. You know, a lot of people are still intimidated by their computers. And is he addressing that problem?
Oh, he is. I think most people, and as well as Bill Gates, believe that when computers are integrated with your television set, when they become as easy to use as the remote control is now, then people will get accustomed to bringing them into their homes and getting all the wonderful information and ideas they can get.
And he's working on that. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Bob.
Well, when we come back, emotions and what some say are the facts about passive smoking. If you're forced to be near someone who smokes, how big is the health threat? And whose right should come first, yours or theirs? John Stossel reports Smoke in Your Face right after this.
Beautiful hair comes naturally. Système by Allage by Matrix. The style behind the stylist.
If you buy dry dog food, there's something you should know. They're pretty much the same. Right, Jake? Most of them start with ground corn as the #1 ingredient, even a fancy brand like Science Diet. But Purina One Dog formula is different because it starts with chicken. Chicken, corn, wheat, and other wholesome ingredients provide high-quality nutrition and a naturally good taste dogs love. To me, Purina One is the only one.
Purina One, second to none.
say a 1930s fashion-inspired Lincoln Town Car? Perhaps it was simply the spirit of the times. We only know that today, Town Car is the most spacious, most quiet automobile you can own. Lincoln Town Car. What a luxury car should be.
I don't want this evening to end.
I know.
But I think your mom does.
Hey, I'm an adult.
What's she doing with the Kellogg's Raisin Bran?
Where?
On the porch.
Oh.
What's the matter?
Well, Mom knows I have the thing for raisins.
I can accept that.
And there are 2 scoops in Kellogg's Raisin Bran. So
have some in the morning.
Alan, it is morning. Bye.
Kellogg's Raisin Bran with that tempting 2-scoop taste.
You can go to bed now, Mom.
Secondhand smoke. Cigarette makers say it's nothing to worry about.
You guys have been saying for years that smoking won't even give the smoker cancer. Why should we believe you now?
I think that what you should believe is the science.
What is the science? Should you fear? Smoke in your face. When 2020 continues. Saturday, a college football doubleheader kicks off with a classic matchup. First, Rose Bowl-bound Michigan tries to stay undefeated in the Big Ten as they battle arch-rival Ohio State. Then it's regional action as Stanford meets 6th-ranked Cal, or number 2 Washington takes on Washington State. It's all Saturday on ABC Sports.
Tonight on Nightline, the KGB files on Lee Harvey Oswald. An exclusive look at secret reports that contain startling insights into the man accused of killing John F. Kennedy. The Oswald Files, a special edition of Nightline, tonight.
Tonight at 10, meteorologist Pam Dale will have the very latest on the winter storm moving through central Iowa.
How will the storm affect your weekend travel plans? Scott Smith will have a live report on road conditions.
Tonight's Crackdown on Drugs takes a look at drugs and politics. Alan Ehrlich focuses on how tough our drug laws really are.
Iowans now have 50 million reasons to play. A hefty record lotto jackpot is causing the lotto fever. We'll have that story in all your day's news tonight on the 10 o'clock report.
Jenny Jones has something different for your daytime.
Grab a hold of your seat and listen to this.
With a fresh new look at what's important to you.
My talk show is your talk show.
Jenny Jones.
Jenny Jones, weekdays at 3 on Channel 5.
Nobody knows more about the quality of a car than the people who build it. In Iowa, we just built yours.
You'll want to test drive this new LeSabre. The 1992 model has a great new look and 14 more safety and comfort features than ever before.
Shopping for a new car? Think LeSabre from Buick. World-class quality for Central Iowa.
The 1992 Buick LeSabre. World-class quality. Waiting for you at your nearest quality Buick dealer.
Rebecca tries to buy Sam's bar on the next Cheers.
Yesterday, millions of smokers put out their cigarettes for National Smokeout Day. But when it comes to smoking in public, should the smokeout be permanent? Is smoke from other people's cigarettes killing non-smokers? Well, if you're a smoker, could you be killing your partner or co-workers or your children? Tonight, John Stossel looks at the scientific evidence. When smokers do unto others, what exactly are they doing?
What you do to your own body is your business. But if you smoke, what are you doing to others?
Take a place like this pool hall. It's not that smoky. There's no visible smoke in the air. But people are puffing away, over there, over there. So even though I'm a non-smoker, as long as I'm in here, I'm inhaling secondhand smoke, or as it's sometimes called, side stream, or passive, or environmental smoke. What's in it?
It includes ammonia, which is toilet bowl cleaner. It includes formaldehyde, which is what you pickle dead things in. Arsenic, which is rat poison. Cyanide, which is what they use in gas chambers.
Lately, more scientists are saying that smokers, by spreading those chemicals, are killing other people. Cardiac specialist Dr. Stanton Glenn.
And if I were to walk up to you and have an aerosol can filled with 4,000 chemicals, and say, excuse me, do you mind if I spray this in your face? You'd think I was out of my mind. But when somebody smokes a cigarette, that's what they're doing.
Glance at the EPA's request recently reviewed studies done on non-smoking spouses of smokers and concluded that side stream smoke kills 53,000 people a year, most from heart disease.
Lung cancer is the other big threat. The EPA estimates that secondhand smoke causes more than 3,000 lung cancer deaths every year. And in recent years, it's also been linked to cervical cancer. If these studies are accurate, it means secondhand smoke is a far bigger health threat than the other things the EPA has been warning us about. Benzene, vinyl chloride, asbestos, for example. The worst of those, asbestos, is thought to cause only 15 cancer deaths a year, says the EPA. If side stream smoke is so much more deadly, there'll soon be more rules banning smoking in public places. And the range of issues all this raises is enormous. If smoke makes you sick, will you sue the smoker or the business that allowed the smoking?
Some people are suing already. Flight attendant Norma Broyne is suing the tobacco companies.
You have flight attendants who have never smoked a day in their lives going to their physicians and the doctors telling them that they must stop smoking. It's wrong.
Broyne was always annoyed by smoke on flights she worked, but she never thought of it as a health threat.
Great.
Norma is a Mormon. She and her family don't smoke or drink or live any part of the lifestyle that's associated with lung cancer. Yet 2 years ago, at the age of 34, she had to have part of her lung removed because she has lung cancer.
This is where the original tumor was growing in this area.
It was numb. It was very, very difficult to believe that this was something that I would have. The pain was excruciating. Even to breathe would hurt because the ribs were spread. I didn't cry because it hurt too much to cry.
The Flight Attendants Union was instrumental in getting smoking banned on domestic flights 2 years ago. Now they want it banned on international flights.
It's pulmonary rape. And every time someone lights up a cigarette, I am involuntarily being subjected to that. I am being violated against my will.
The evidence, the scientific evidence, is just not there to make that kind of a claim.
Lawyer Steve Parrish speaks for the biggest tobacco company, Philip Morris.
Cool, snow fresh, cool.
Of course, his is an industry that has always minimized the health risk.
This is it, just what the doctor ordered.
They once told us more doctors smoke Camel, and that Chesterfields will have no adverse effect on your nose and throat. Should we believe what they say about passive smoke when they've been so evasive about active smoke?
You agree that smoking causes cancer in the smoker?
No, I don't agree with that. As I said before, sure, there's evidence out there. But my position is there are a lot of unanswered questions.
And you would never distort the data out of greed?
I certainly would not.
Isn't that what your company did for years about first-hand smoke?
No, on the contrary. Why would it be in my interest, in an industry, in a company that is under public scrutiny, distort data?
There is a lot at stake here for the tobacco industry. This is a huge and very profitable business, after all. Watch us make 8,000 Winstons a minute. It's 275 million cigarettes a day. Although fewer Americans have been lighting up since the Surgeon General first criticized cigarettes 25 years ago, the drop has not been significant, and profits are as strong as ever. The passive smoke issue threatens that. We were able to get a hold of one of the industry's private market research studies. It concluded passive smoke is the most dangerous development to the viability of the tobacco industry that's yet occurred.
Hello, Sam Simmons.
Maybe that's why, when we called R.J. Reynolds, they, on a moment's notice, flew 2 people to New York to tell us their side of the story.
Exposure levels to environmental tobacco smoke are very small anywhere.
The R.J. Reynolds scientist explained that just because studies show more lung cancer in spouses of smokers, that doesn't mean that smoking was the cause.
There are a number of risk factors for lung cancer. Not getting enough exercise, for instance, too much alcohol consumption, or in your diet if you do not consume enough green leafy vegetables.
The people who live with smokers tend to live dangerous lives. They drink a lot, don't eat well. They're going to die soon anyway?
No, I think they don't worry a lot. I think that if there is a health impact on these people, it is due to the lifestyle that is nutrition, exercise, lack of exercise, and so forth, than it is to exposure to environmental tobacco smoke.
Simmons says studies show that secondhand smoke is less likely to give you lung cancer than making pottery or living with a bird.
This particular study showed that living with a pet bird, keeping a pet bird, created a relative risk of 6.7 for lung cancer.
You're 6 times more likely to get lung cancer if you have a bird?
6.7, yeah, that's exactly right.
Why would living with a bird make you more likely to have lung cancer?
Birds carry mites, tiny animals, tiny insects. They're infested with these insects. When they fluff their feathers, they throw these mites out into the air. They become suspended in the air. You can inhale these.
You guys have been saying for years that smoking won't even give the smoker cancer. Why should we believe you now?
I think that what you should believe is the science.
There is confusion over the science. Many studies the EPA looked at showed no significant increased risk of lung cancer. But the agency's Science Advisory Board said, if you look at the studies as a group, it does appear that side stream smoke is carcinogenic. That's why the EPA may add it to the list of chemicals we should worry about.
The body of medical evidence says side stream smoke kills people.
No, that's not true. It does not show that. The body of scientific evidence definitely does not show
The Heart
that.
Association, the AMA, the EPA, all these medical groups say this stuff kills people.
They're crusaders, John, and a crusader loses scientific objectivity.
So they just blind their eyes to the science so they can ban smoking.
They have adopted an agenda to have no smoking, a smoke-free society by the year 2000.
All these medical groups just want to drive you guys out of business.
I think that they would be very happy, and I refer to this as backdoor prohibition. Anything that they can do to get people to stop smoking, they're going to do it.
They've been taken away on the airplanes, they've been taken away in the movie theaters, all over.
Smokers these days do feel under attack. Some say the health nuts are out to get them. Many in this pool hall said they'd put out their cigarettes if you said the smoke bothered you, but they could not believe that they were spreading cancer or heart disease.
Do you feel responsible at all?
About giving everybody diseases?
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't.
What if people say, you're poisoning me?
Open a window. As long as there's proper ventilation, it shouldn't take the right that I have, that he has, that these people have to smoke.
Proper ventilation is something that tobacco companies keep talking about.
The ventilation system, which the tobacco companies like to say that's the solution, is to have more ventilation, is actually part of the problem because it picks up the very fine particles that are in the secondhand smoke and the gaseous poisons and just circulates it through the building.
This pool hall has a ventilation system and high ceilings, so there's no visible smoker's haze in the room. But does this mean that the air is reasonably clean? We asked Dr. Alfred Lowry to test it. Lowry's a research chemist who has a device that samples air and measures the number of particulates small enough to get into your lungs.
What we're getting here is we're getting levels that were 10 times what we found when there was no one here smoking. And this is basically as if someone came and took a handful of chemicals or some can of chemicals and sprayed them in your face. That's what we're measuring here.
Yeah, well, this is a pool hall. You know, there's smoking in pool halls. There always has been. Hopefully, there always will be. Pool hall is like a smoky environment. That's the way it is.
At least in the pool hall, you have a choice. If you don't like the smoke, you can leave. But it's different with children, as this ad demonstrates. They don't have a choice. One thing most people agree on is that children should be protected.
Let's talk about children.
Lung surgeon William Cahan.
Children's growing tissues are much more susceptible to cancer agents than our adult ones. We are now seeing that they're getting chronic pulmonary infections, and some of them even getting scarring of their lungs and diminished pulmonary function.
As a result, parental smoking has even become an issue in child custody cases.
How can you do this to your child? I mean, child abuse doesn't have to be black and blue marks. It can be inhaled secondhand smoke.
And what medicines is she taking?
Many pediatricians, like this doctor, now include parents' smoking status when investigating a child's health. And many parents are changing their behavior. This little girl had pneumonia 5 times over the past 2 years. Then her mother started smoking in this closed-off room, away from her daughter. The child hasn't had lung problems since.
Would you smoke around your kids?
Well, first of all, I'm not a smoker. I probably wouldn't be blowing smoke in my children's faces. I think it would probably bother them.
His company's official position, however, is that doctors who say secondhand smoke causes childhood disease are relying on bad science.
The tobacco companies say you're a zealot. You just want smoking banned from this country, so you've closed your eyes to real science.
John, let me tell you about that. These are people who are, in their greed, will do anything to contradict the medical evidence, and have done so. I see 4 to 6 people dying of lung cancer every day of my life at my hospital. So when you tell me I'm a zealot, I take pride in that.
You know, it's very convincing, but you have to change all your thinking. Someone lights up, and instead of being annoyed, you want to say, hey, you're making me sick. Or do you?
Now,
yeah.
Maybe you're poisoning me. What upsets me is that the public policy at the moment is so out of whack, in that the people who are supposed to protect us have these rules for, say, asbestos. We're paying $5 billion a year to pay those guys in white suits to rip asbestos out of buildings. Yet even if you look at the lowest numbers for passive smoke, it appears to be 100 times deadlier than asbestos. So if what we're doing about asbestos is reasonable, then we should be doing much more about passive smoke. And if our smoke policy is reasonable, then we're being hysterical about asbestos and other things.
Well, the tobacco lobby is very strong, and also we are learning new things. I mean, I just learned tonight. Now I have to rethink. The next time someone says, do you mind if I smoke? I've always said no. Now I think maybe I'll say yes.
Guess it depends how much smoke there is.
When we come back, a warning about a sleeping pill that reportedly can trigger violent, even psychotic behavior. Stay with us.
So you just got a cash advance, did you? Too bad you used an ordinary credit card. Because you could be carrying some very heavy interest charges. Why not carry the Discover card? Just pay your full monthly balance and a small transaction fee, and we'll forget the interest. Which means our money comes with no strings attached. It pays to Discover.
Sally Brown on the uneven bars.
No matter how well you plan, no matter how hard you try, there's always the possibility that something can go wrong. That's why nobody should be without the protection of a big, strong insurance company. MetLife. Get Met. It pays.
Introducing the world's newest superpower, the Pontiac SSEI. With the decisive power of its supercharged engine, it takes its place among the most respected performance sedans in the world. The supercharged Pontiac SSEI. A higher level of excitement.
It's time to look at soft skin in a whole new light. Introducing Light Caress, new light fragrance. Still leaves skin softer than soap can. New Light Caress. Before you dress, caress.
Meatloaf tonight? Put an alarm clock in your pantry. Then you won't forget the Lipton Recipe Soup Mix. With its special blend of seasonings and toasted onions, your meatloaf will wake 'em up. Add Lipton Recipe Soup Mix. It's too good to forget.
Saturday, Chevy Chase is moving to the country.
You're not dealing with some ignorant hicks here!
Can he find peace and quiet living this simple life?
We have a corpse in the garden.
Chevy Chase in the network television premiere Funny Farm Saturday.
Michael Jackson, Madonna. In two never-before-seen performances, join hosts Mel Gibson, Kim Basinger, Spike Lee, Cher, and Tom Cruise for the musical event of the decade, MTV's 10th anniversary, only on ABC Wednesday.
Tonight, an important update on problems with the most widely prescribed sleeping pill, Halcion, which is made by Upjohn. 2020 first reported on this nearly 3 years ago. Halcion was approved by the FDA in 1982, but consistent reports have linked the drug to irrational and violent behavior. Stone Phillips reported the case of Ilo Grunberg. While taking Halcion, she shot her 83-year-old mother to death.
I just don't know what happened that much that I can tell you that much about it. It just happened that way, and I don't know why.
Now, since our report, Ilo Grunberg was cleared after doctors linked her extended use of Halcion to her violent behavior. There have been other developments. Upjohn has disclosed that early tests showed adverse reactions to Halcion, but the FDA never knew it. Halcion is now banned in England. And this week, Upjohn, while maintaining Halcion is safe, said it will come in smaller doses and carry a stronger warning. Dosage seems to be key. Numerous cases link high dosages to paranoia, hallucinations, and psychotic behavior. We'll be right back.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Pain that's hard to face alone. That's why you need new Ultra Strength Bengay, with more pain relievers than we've ever had before. For muscle pain that's hard to ignore, minor arthritis pain, back pain, pain that seems worse at night. New Ultra Strength Bengay, with more pain relievers than ever. Deep, penetrating warmth for fast, long-lasting relief. You can say goodnight to your pain with new Ultra Strength Bengay.
Ford Taurus, the pattern other car companies have drawn on for inspiration. Well, this year, we've given them even more inspiration. With a more aerodynamic design, a more intelligent interior, and dual airbags, an exclusive Ford Motor Company offer in this class. Once again, we've sent the competition back to the drawing board. Have you noticed a pattern developing here? Have you driven a Ford lately?
Next, blowing snow is keeping rescue crews scrambling tonight, trying to handle all the car accidents.
Snow is falling over much of Iowa. There's a winter storm warning, and I'll have details. And just say no, that's the political rhetoric attached to the war on drugs. But have local politicians gone soft in the fight?
Channel 5 News is next.
Monday, Young Riders on a special night. It's Frank and Jesse James against Cody, Hickok, and the Kid. Legends collide on the Young Riders Monday. Bam.
Let's boogie!
It'll be a Wild West shootout when the San Francisco 49ers tackle their division rivals, the Los Angeles Rams, on ABC's NFL Monday Night Football.
28 years ago tonight, America was in shock over the assassination of John Kennedy. And tonight, Ted Koppel has a special hour edition of Nightline, new revelations about Lee Harvey Oswald. Ted?
Hugh, it's a special edition of Nightline, the KGB files on Lee Harvey Oswald. Today marks the 28th anniversary of the murder of President John F. Kennedy, and Nightline got an exclusive look at the Soviet secret police files. Some intriguing insights into the accused assassin tonight. Hugh?
That's Nightline after your local news. And that is 2020 for tonight. We thank you for watching.
And remember, we're in touch, so you'll be in touch. I'm Barbara Walters.
And I'm Hugh Downs.
And for all of us here in 2020, have a good weekend and good night.
For Transcript of 2020, send $5 to the address on your screen.
2020 is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
America's watching ABC.
Ethan Allen introduces the American Impressions Collection. Just because you don't have a lot of money to throw around doesn't mean you have to live with disposable furniture. Right now, there's a sale at your Ethan Allen Gallery.
When you buy a diamond, it should be from someone you trust. And you can trust Joseph's. Joseph's is a member of the American Gem Society, the organization that set the ethical standard for the industry. Joseph's carries one of the largest inventories of loose diamonds in the Midwest. And Joseph's consistently offers the most basic pricing on diamonds. Don't be fooled by wild claims. For honest value in diamonds, for friendly, professional assistance, without question, it's Joseph's.
The trouble with some health plans is that they're managed by people far, far away.
Des Moines, eh? Yeah, is that in Ohio?
HMO Iowa, on the other hand, is managed by people who live right here in central Iowa. People you can count on. So for health care you can feel good about, think Iowa. HMO Iowa. With our card, you'll always feel right at home. Member of the Principal Financial Group.
There's great savings in store for you this week at Walgreens. L'Oreal Preference shampoo and hair color is only $5. Buy 2 and get a coupon by mail for 1 free. Legs, Sheer Energy, or Silk and Mist pantyhose are specially priced at 2 pair for $5. And Suave shampoo, conditioner, and hairspray are exceptional values. Walgreens price just 69 cents each. Don't miss these and other outstanding bargains through Saturday at your nearby Walgreens drugstore.
You're watching Channel 5. And now, live, the only news team bringing you news, weather, and sports in the first 10 minutes. Dennis Doda, Gail Nye, meteorologist Pam Dale, and Keith Murphy with sports. This is the Channel 5 News 10 o'clock report.
In some areas, traffic on I-35 tonight was lucky to get up to 35 miles per hour. And once it got going that fast, you can see stopping was a challenge, too. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
It's an all too familiar sight, but after all, it is Iowa, and it is Friday night, so a lot of us can just hunker down and do what the police want us to do, that is watch the world go by outside the window. Pam's been watching the world go by all day on radar. And Pam, are things easing up at all?
Unfortunately, Gail and Dennis, things are not easing up, and in fact, the snow is going to get heavier as the night goes on. We do have a winter storm warning because of that. Over much of Iowa, the only part that is not in this warning is the far northwest. Some of those places have a snow and blowing snow advisory for tonight. Channel 5 radar, as we've been seeing all day long, a lot of snow in central Iowa. In fact, much of the state now has snow, except the far northwest. Just some flurries there. We're just not picking it up on our radar. It is moving very slowly to the east-northeast at only 5 to 10 miles per hour. For the planner, overnight, expect the snow to continue, sometimes heavy. 23 for our low. Now 5 to 10 inches of snow are possible during the morning tomorrow. Total, anyway, 25 for the morning temperature. For the afternoon high, only 28 degrees, but very gusty winds causing some blowing and drifting. Now, this is all causing travel problems, as you saw earlier. Scott Smith is standing by live. Scott, how are things going so far this evening?
Well, Pam, things aren't going very well at all. As the State Patrol said, travel is not recommended. However, some people aren't heeding those warnings, and they're going out on these interstates even as we speak. Now, here in the metro area, there's not many problems. However, it's west of here on Interstate 80 near Earlham. As a matter of fact, it's the exit 103 that's the problem right now. Only one lane of traffic is open there. Apparently, a truck was jackknifed, causing a lot of problems out there, and therefore chain reactions in this weather. Stopping is not a possibility when you're speeding along. I want to step out and let you take a look at traffic here along Interstate 235. Now, there are a lot of accidents on the highways, and as you saw at the beginning of the news, traffic is pretty much crawling along in most parts. As Dennis said, that's 35 to 45 miles per hour. Now, as always, the bridges and the off-ramps are going to cause the most problems. Now, in town, side streets are extremely icy. Underneath this snow is the wet stuff that we got earlier this morning, which was slushy. It was packed down and has now become a sheet of ice underneath this snow. There's probably at least 4 inches that have fallen here on top of this, as you can just walk and see. And underneath that is, as I said, a sheet of ice, so stopping is not very easy whatsoever at all. Now, once again, the State Patrol has urged people to stay off the interstates and highways and not travel at all. But if you do, the State Patrol, along with the Department of Transportation, is offering this suggestion. Make sure that you keep a full tank of gas in your car at all times. Also, warm clothing. Even if you're going down the street to the grocery store, make sure you put on an extra coat. Also, some blankets will be good. Also, if you're traveling long distances, keep non-perishable food items in your car. A battery-operated radio would be good, and of course, jumper cables. In this cold temperature, a battery can die in just a matter of seconds. Now, if you are traveling tonight, the big thing is to call ahead. Road conditions reports are updated every few minutes. That's 288-1047. The number on your screen again, 288-1047, and of course, call ahead. As we said right now, the biggest problem is I-80 West at the 103 exit. Only one lane of traffic is open. If you're heading anywhere near the direction of Omaha, you may want to plan ahead, take alternate routes, and if at all possible, stay over the night and don't travel. As we said again, it's extremely icy, extremely slick, and dangerous driving conditions. Reporting live from I-235, Scott Smith for Channel 5 News.
So stay home. Good advice. Get warm, Scott. Thank you.
Today's winter blast didn't slow everything down. Some businesses in Des Moines were booming. Take a look at this. People flocked to area grocery stores, stocking up for the weekend. And food wasn't the only item that was in high demand. You can see that the groceries carts were going pretty fast at this store. And hardware stores across the town saw a lot of folks emptying the shelves. Snow plows and shovels were the first things to go, as well as sidewalk salt. And it looks like Iowans are at least now a little more prepared for this storm.
State and local authorities still baffled tonight by the disappearance of an Oskaloosa woman. 23-year-old Amy Hulbert has been missing since Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Her car was found abandoned on the edge of Oskaloosa. Blood stains on the seats. Blood stains were also found in her home. Today, authorities searched the area with dogs, but the weather did slow things down a bit. If you have any information, please call the Oskaloosa Police or the Division of Criminal Investigation. A pivotal figure in Iowa agriculture, politics, and in the release of former hostage Thomas Sutherland was laid to rest today. William Murray of Ames was remembered as the founder of Living History Farms, a candidate in the race for governor twice. But above all, he was remembered as a man devoted to family that included his son-in-law, Tom Sutherland.
Like in all things, though, Bill was always positive and confident that Tom would be freed someday. And it is terribly sad that Bill died 36 hours short of Tom's release.
William Murray was laid to rest at the Iowa State University Cemetery.
In crime news, a couple of years back, the toughest line against drug use was just say no. Critics said that was just a war of words, simple rhetoric. Well, we wrap up a week-long look at Iowa's crackdown on drugs tonight with the politics of the fight. Alan Ehrlich reports.
Authorities are winning isolated battles against drugs, but police say the problem is getting more violent. They're doing everything they can, but they say sometimes it's only enough to keep their heads above water. We asked the chief union steward of Des Moines Police Department if politicians are putting their money where their mouth is.
Well, I think they're serious about it. Only trouble is sometimes I think that a year or two down the road, they've went on to other topics and kind of left us holding the bag a little bit. But they have come through with some money. I just hope that it continues.
Iowa spent $32 million fighting drugs in fiscal 1991, and it's spending $52 million in this fiscal year. The state's drug czar says spending won't go down, but because of the state's budget crisis, he doesn't think it will go up either.
In a way, the drug war has gone very well. In another way, it's wound up in a very serious situation because we're going to see more and more crime as a result of it.
The weapons authorities are confiscating are clear evidence of how violent it can be. One Des Moines attorney who defends many of the people busted for drugs doesn't believe the attack being used is really working.
We've got to stop the siege mentality. It's not us against them, it's all of us. Period. That's how we've got to have to look at it. If we don't start looking at it like that, we can spend billions and billions of dollars and this problem will never stop.
Alan Ehrlich, Channel 5 News.
The White House has announced Phase 2 of the Middle East peace talks. That story tops world headlines tonight.
The U.S. wants the conference to pick up again in Washington early next month. So far, only Jordan has accepted. It remains to be seen whether Israel, Syria, Lebanon, and the Palestinians follow suit. The target date for the start of the conference is December 4th. Charges were dropped today against 4 people accused in a mass slaying in Phoenix, Arizona. Last August, 9 people were found shot to death in a Buddhist temple. The suspected men were released from jail after recanting their confessions. 2 juveniles are still being held in the case.
An Alexandria, Virginia doctor has pleaded innocent to charges he'd artificially inseminated 7 women with his own sperm. Dr. Cecil B. Jacobson faces 53 counts and up to 285 years in prison. He's accused of fathering at least 7 children after telling the women he had carefully screened sperm donors. 3 people died in Michigan today when a small plane crashed in dense fog. Authorities say the plane crashed 3 miles short of the runway at Romeo. Witnesses reported seeing the plane hit the top of a tree and then roll over. The FAA is investigating. At the top of sports tonight, the Chicago Cubs have a new manager.
Yes, they have found the man they think can lead them back to the winning ways. The Chicago Cubs are looking for bigger and better things in 1992, and they think they've found the man who can make it all happen. He is Jim Lefevre, former skipper of the Seattle Mariners. Lefevre was fired in Seattle 2 months ago after leading the M's to the first winning season in franchise history. The NIT moved into round 2 tonight with quite an upset as Pittsburgh hammered number 4 Kentucky in Lexington. The Panthers jumped out to a 13-point halftime lead and never let up. They tamed the Cats 85-67. More from the NIT coming up in Sports Extra.
Coming up, ISU celebrates a milestone.
Plus, this is the season to get your flu shot. Details on that when we come back.